Change has come. It's at the door. Everything that was true isn't true anymore. In our hands is a broken crown, and the wars that we lose mean freedom now. Every ending is a chance, a chance, a chance. Every ending is a chance, a chance, a chance. Every ending is a chance to begin again. Every ending is a chance to begin again. Let's dance into battle, start a revolution, turn the heartbreak into evolution. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, from the ashes. Every ending is a chance, a chance, a chance. Every ending is a chance, a chance, a chance. Every ending is a chance to begin again. Every ending is a chance to begin again. Keep marching on. 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 Every ending is a chance, a chance, a chance. Every ending is a chance, a chance, a chance. Every ending is a chance to begin again. Every ending is a chance to begin again. Every ending is a chance. Every ending is a chance to begin again.
The plan for living life, playing the game of life. Rules to the game of life. You will receive a body. You will learn lessons. There are no mistakes, only lessons. A lesson will be repeated until it is learned. Learning lessons does not end. There is no better than here. Others are merely mirrors of you. What you make of your life is up to you. Life is exactly what you think it is. Your answers lie inside you. You will forget all of this. You can remember it whenever you want. Mastering ourselves, being our best selves. My power, my control. Mind, body, soul, which is thoughts, wills, the things you say, and emotions. Principles: learn, grow, teach, help. Foundation: love, health, wealth, happiness. Rules: respectful, safe, responsible. Being a champion, one day at a time. Having accountability, accept responsibility for actions and performance. Culture, living our values, mastering ourselves, body, mind, soul. Excellence, being our best selves by efficiency and productivity. Leveling up in life, showing up for yourself, focus on yourself, core values, decisions, goals, and behavior. Live by, no excuses, take ownership, empower yourself to do better and be more for you. Many are here to help us be the best version of ourselves through learning and development. 2, I'm willing to do the work and you are willing to do the work. The first step to empowering you is creating a structure that helps you eliminate excuses through clarity of responsibility and process. Being a champion to create winning is by having a desire to be the best version of yourself and empowering you to do so daily. Having a better world that is a champion world is that it takes all of us. Everything is energy, vibration, and frequency, which is inside of us all and all around us. What is your energy? Low vibration or high vibration? Low vibration. Empathy, victim, helplessness, blame, negative self-talk, worry, hatred, anger, fear. High vibration. Hopefulness, courage, acceptance, happiness, self-love, gratitude, positive self-talk, trust, knowledge, abundance, forgiveness, unconditional love. Mastering ourselves. Lust, intense desire or craving, greed, excessive selfish desire. Gluttony, excessive consumption. Pride, excessive self-importance. Sloth, laziness, empathy. Envy, desiring what someone else has. Wrath, extreme anger. The unseen laws, spiritual laws you must respect. Core unseen laws. Law of reciprocity, which what you send out, energy, thoughts, actions, returns amplified. Law of authority. Spirits only respect those who know who they are. If you're confused, they dominate. Law of resonance. You attract what matches your vibration. Purity equals clear outcomes. Law of timing. Some doors open only in divine timing. Forcing it equals punishment or delay. Law of spiritual debt. Every lie, scam, or shortcut leaves a karmic invoice until it's paid by pain or repentance. It blocks flow. Law of access. Sharing sacred things with unworthy people gives dark forces access to you. Guard your spiritual intimacy. Law of sacred exchange. Don't ask for something from spirit world without giving something. Prayers, food, fire, service, truth. Law of hidden eyes. Even when no one is watching, you are seen. All thoughts and deeds echo in the spirit realms. Everyone will get exactly what they choose. 3D earth. Fear, division, anger, control, hate, AI. 5D earth. Love, unity, peace, freedom, healing, consciousness. This is the great awakening. If you knew how hard it was and how long it took to rebuild my little universe of peace and happiness, then you would understand why I'm so picky about who I allow in my life. Welcome, I'm Alisha Quinn, and today we are doing a Robert review. And if you knew how hard it was to make peace in my life, then you would understand why I am so picky about who I allow in my life, and why I got all the bullshitters out, people playing the victimized game, because I'm not a victim to my life. I'm not a victim to my experience. That everything serves its purpose, and there was a reason and purpose for everything. And the thing is that we are in an energy game, and the energy that you put out, you get back. And that's the truth. So, I'm going to talk a bit about Robert Quinn, who was my former husband, and his life, because truly anyone who can take his life and as an example will truly just take the learning lessons that maybe the ones that he didn't learn about. And I do not believe that he ended up being his highest self either, by any means. And the thing is in the game of life, some people come here to win and some come to lose. And either way, they do serve a purpose. And take the examples, take the learning lessons, and learn them for yourself if you can. And that's truly how I do look at his life, is that he served a purpose for me on multiple levels. And I learned a lot from the man. I truly did. And it is truly the reason that I'm on the path that I'm on, and that I choose to be my highest self and truly working on mastering myself, right? Mastering my own mind and my body and my soul, and that no one else can do that for me. I don't need a middleman for it. But Robert Quinn, he was a Black man. He was born in the South in Mississippi in 1954. And while his mother was pregnant with him, when she was 7 months pregnant with him, his dad disappeared. And Robert was the seventh child, which eventually the mother would have more children, and there would be 11 kids. So when Robert was born, from what I have gathered, is that the mother wouldn't really have anything to do with him. She really didn't take care of him. It was like the older siblings that were taking care of him. That's what I was always told. And, the question is that somebody would have had to tell him that, right? And eventually, he and some of the other siblings ended up with a grandmother that had a very heavy hand when it came to discipline, for sure. In fact, they would have a day where they lined up so they could get it for whatever was missed, and called beaten day, pretty much. And I know that he worked in the cotton fields, that he didn't really get an education because he was out working in the cotton fields as a child. And then I do know that there was some sexual stuff going on, and he fell victim to some of that stuff, where he talked about waking up with having someone's hands down his pants and things. So, very toxic stuff, right? Very low vibrational stuff, really. And then as he became, I know that one of the first times he ever remembers seeing his mother and which sounded to me like he was probably about 11 years old. And his mother just walked right by him. She didn't even acknowledge him or anything. She just walked right past him. And as a teenager, because he ended up with the mother, and I know that one of his sisters talked about him coming to live with her when he was a teenager because the mother treated him so poorly. And so he ended up becoming a young man. I know that there was some religion that went on in this family with the Pentecostal church. And as a young man, he married this woman where she had 4 children already, and they had 3 children, 3 girls, and then there ended up being a boy, and he died after a week. Now, Robert ended up telling me that that the wife was messing around on him and that he had left. And that took him to California and then up to Washington State. But upon him passing away, I did come to find out that he was actually caught molesting one of the older children of his wife's, and that I think he kind of had a little bit of problem with this pedophilia thing because it was a little bit known. I didn't find out until he was passing away about it, but that he had this little thing with pedophilia himself. He was caught molesting one of the older children that was not his, from his wife, and the brothers wanted to kill him. And Robert hitchhiked to California with the clothes on his back. He didn't have a bag or anything. He pretty much ran for his life. And so he ended up in California, where I do believe that is when he messed around with his other sister's daughter as well. He did get involved a bit in the Church of Christ there, and whatever happened that led him up to Washington State, he ended up in Washington State in like 1980, 1981. And he ended up getting heavily involved in the Church of Christ there in North Seattle. He was friends with the preacher man, Dick, the preacher man, there for many years. They had a very close friendship. You know, really, Dick Radke was Robert's mentor for sure. Now, Robert, when he went into the Church of Christ and stuff, Robert was more of a submissive yes man type personality. And so Robert, he had issues with reading, and the people there in the church helped him and guided him on this path of learning to read. So Robert learned how to read. Somewhere during this time, he did end up getting a wife who, I know that they had a pregnancy that ended up in a miscarriage, and she was supposed to be schizophrenic or whatever. There were issues with him allowing her to take medication because Robert did get involved in more like natural path stuff. And I know he got involved in that through Dick the Preacher Man, and even like multi-level marketing businesses. He was involved in selling the ladders, the giant ladders, where he would go to these different places, fair places, to sell these little giant ladders. And things kind of, took place with his other wife, Valerie, who ended up, when he was away, this is the story that I got, was that when he was away, she packed up everything in the house and she just disappeared and left. I'm not sure, exactly what that situation was, but that's what I was told. Robert ended up, because of the reading that he did learn how to do and stuff, and I think he ended up getting a GED or something like that too. But he ended up at the in Washington, D.C. in 1992, where he spoke to Congress about illiteracy and stuff. So he was really, had been helped to learn how to read and kind of on that path, right, of even promoting and helping with this illiteracy thing and stuff. And so Robert was also very interested in preaching. And somewhere probably in the early 2000s, there ended up being a huge fallout with him and the North Seattle church because of Robert preaching, which they didn't want him to preach or whatever. So there ended up being this huge thing with that. I know that at some point in time, Robert had also bought a house that had some chemical stuff with the carpet, and he tore it up. He was just having it had like fiberglass or something within it, and it was running him havoc and stuff. But he eventually like sold that house or lost it or whatever. And so we come to the point that where I met Robert, which I met him in around November, I think around November of 2006. So Robert had been around the Church of Christ group. He was very much known among these members because he had been around this church organization and group for like 25 years. And I met him in Sumner. So he was at a Kirkland church. So it was about an hour and a half away from Sumner. So I kind of lived in Pierce County and he lived in like North King County. And so we ended up meeting when he came down to the Sumner church to visit. And we quickly got involved and went down this road and of really getting married, right? And so it didn't take us long and we got married and everything. But, we ended up really started having, these relationship issues. We were, constantly in marriage counseling and things, right? And we had one pregnancy that I lost, and then we ended up pregnant with my daughter, which we had her in August of 2008. And there were, definitely issues with our sex life that I could never figure out. I did find condoms in his truck when our daughter was 2.5, like around 2010. And Robert just would randomly pick up stuff, and that's what he said. He just picked him up somewhere. You just found him, picked him up. And I just really, truly trusted him that he was really being this Christian man and things, right? And really being honest and faithful and things. And we had another pregnancy in 2011 where I ended up losing that pregnancy. And it was much more medically traumatic for me just because it was further along and things as well. And medically, I ended up having to have a blood transfusion and these kinds of things, right? But he ended up, really being there for me and even came and stayed in the hospital with me when I was having a very difficult time. Robert, we ended up where we kind of started bouncing around different congregations there for a few years. He was still very interested in trying to preach. And we were involved in, several different multi-level marketing businesses as well. And so then in 2015, we ended up having our son. And then as those years kind of started coming by there, that there were like a few things that happened that one of the things that happened was that he we did go through this time where he was still doing window washing jobs, even though we had moved out to the Enumclaw area, kind of towards that's South King County. So we had done that even before having our daughter. And then we ended up in a house in Buckley, which was Pierce County. So we were very close to like the Sumner congregation again. Even though at times we weren't at Sumner, we were going to other congregations. We kind of did this congregation hopping for a while because, it'd just be some issues and this and that. So as those years kind of started going by, though, there was this transitional time that he was still washing windows out in the King County kind of area. And there was this day that I got a call and he had fallen asleep or something and had hit somebody's like rock wall thing. So that ended up where it bent his truck's frame and he couldn't use the truck anymore. So we kind of, went through some vehicle things there. But truly not knowing at the time, I do believe that that incident was actually some sort of mini stroke or something. It was just something that really, there was something that kind of began to happen after that. And we ended up having like my friend who he taught and had baptized, and I couldn't be friends with her. There was just all these things that really, I started to really open my eyes to things, right? And then as the whole 2020 came and the counseling that we were in and finding that he didn't compromise. And then, back in counseling and he had his mini stroke and things just really, that was when things went from bad to worse. It was just, I was just like up here. I was just in over my head with all this stuff. For years, there was just constant problems with the neighbors, problems with the people in the church, the elders, the people preaching about stuff. It was just like these things always taking place with him. And then when I ended up leaving, and he was over there this last year of his life. He had chosen not to take any medication, but he really wasn't eating the way that he knew he should have ate too. He was diabetic, and even after having that mini stroke, he was picking up bags of salt and vinegar chips and things like that. And so, and then, one of the times when we went there to get stuff, I think the last time, which was in July of 22, that I seen the food that he had there, and it was just a bunch of crap food for the most part. And so sugary cereal and, stuff like that. So then he had his major stroke. He told those people in the hospital that he was abandoned by his wife of almost 15 years the year before. And, he kind of went through this thing with his health. He, could not eat regular food. He, I know that that first month, and he was on pureed food for the rest of the time. I do know that. I don't even know if he was able to eventually drink regular liquids or not. But then, in that early January of 23, then he was just kind of like a vegetable, right? After he, they wouldn't tell me much because of, not really being with him, but I'm assuming that he had like another stroke and he was just pretty much like a vegetable there the rest of that time until he passed. It was just pretty much his body shutting down. It was sad and it was pitiful. And, and that's when I really found out about the adultery thing. He did start developing an ED thing, probably around 2018, 19, when, kind of changed things for our sex life too, because all of a sudden it was like he wanted it more from me for some reason. I couldn't figure it out, but I think what it was more than anything was that dick problem he had where he was fooling around on me took a good little hit too. And so dick problems don't get any easier or better. So anyhow, let's review this Robert's life, and what does Robert teach me? Because, Robert, he was very intelligent and he had, Robert had a lot of motivational tapes and things when we first got married that we ended up recording. I recorded it pretty much to digital. A lot of law of attraction stuff and all these different motivational and self-help, really self-help, self-growth kind of stuff, right? So he had tons of stuff that he worked on with this stuff. And so, that really gave me a lot of information and, really helped me on my path of having, self-growth and things like that, just expands my consciousness a bit, to get, new information of things. And that's how we learn and grow, is from each other. That stuff was very educational for me. But I will say that Robert was a very much a controlling dictator, but he changed when he went into the Church of Christ. When I found him 25 years after he had been involved in the Church of Christ, he was a dominant alpha dictator. And I know he got that from Dick the Preacher Man, for sure. He was the one he was, wanting to be like or whatever. Really, when it comes down to it, Robert teaches me to take care of my own health as well. That I have to be the one to do such a thing, that nobody's going to do it for me. And, he, I think, had something right on, not following along with the pharmaceutical stuff. And, when he went off that medication and he was like, he didn't like how it made him feel and stuff. And I, got that experience myself to truly come to where, like, hey, you know what? It's got to be me to take care of my health and my mind. And that's what I did. And so, Robert, he wasn't taking care of his body. And it was really, truly terrible the way that he died. He wasn't taking care of his own mind either. He gave it away to the church and to government, his television, all these other things. And his soul, he gave that thing away, He definitely wasn't in control of his emotions. And I have seen this thing with the heavy-handed discipline that suppresses these emotions of these children. And then we wonder why things are the way they are is because we haven't taught our children to regulate their emotions. And so that is definitely something that I do truly see, that it just does something to people when their emotions, emotions create our world and our lives, our realities. And, that's the thing, is that we got to get to some point where we become emotionally intelligent and supportive and, processing those emotions instead of, suppressing them. And I do see the world moving towards that way for sure. I do even know that in the schools that there has been a very big change of emotionally supporting the kids. So, there's definitely that stuff, but truly, like, Robert was very much unhealed, right? As I was, really, Robert and I were just two hot, toxic messes really together. And I had to, come to see that throughout my healing, that we truly were. We were just this hot, toxic mess together. And, reactive abuse and everything. And, the thing is that that's what happens in this world, with these controlling dictators, running the world, running religion, and telling you what to do, telling you what to think, all these things. And the thing is that Robert was very much unhealed. He was in a reactive, abusive relationship himself with religion and the government, his television, and, was he a narcissist? Well, who knows? But religion does something to you to blame shift and not take accountability for your own BS. Instead of taking that accountability and responsibility, it's like, oh, well, I'm saved. I'll be fine. There's no, oh, well, there's karma, you know, you reap what you sow, you think that you're all good. And so, so there's definitely that he was in his own narcissistic abusive relationship that he could not see. And that's for sure, until the end. I mean, he was just a diehard, Church of Christ, Jesus Christ believer, and spiritually, he was a child. And so I have to, rise up to that point to really understand that spiritually he was a child that just didn't grow up. But his life definitely serves a purpose for me and for anyone who is willing to take the learning lessons, and that's for sure. And so the church didn't save him from, his health issues that he was having, right? And, I just read this thing the other day talking about guilt. Guilt just keeps people in this energy that can truly just make those energies just make you sick even. It causes these physical ailments of keeping you sick because of these energies that you're in when you're guilty and have the shame and fear and all these things. It causes these issues for you. So, there's definitely that, he was just not informed and didn't have that knowledge and wisdom of coming into energy and stuff, and that those different energies for sure. And the thing is, Robert also was living out this story of being abandoned his whole entire life. And that's one of the things that happens when you're not healing. If you don't do that inner work and that healing and truly coming to transmute that energy, transcend the energy and say, hey, you know what? I went through this for a reason. And, what was the reason? Did it give you strength and resilience? What was the learning lessons? And, figuring that out. His mother obviously was unhealed as well, right? And this is the thing that if we keep passing down to generations, right? And Robert, he wasn't the one. He wasn't the one to do that. He wasn't the one to change it. He was victimized his whole life, had a lack mindset his whole life. I mean, the guy, he had tons of information and knowledge right there, and then he hoarded things like he would have to have, a backup television, a backup VCR, and just all this stuff, I mean, we had so much stuff. And that's the thing that people don't end up looking at and saying, wow, I got plenty. I got so much. And so he had definitely this lack mindset, right? And so truly, by him being gaslit truly by the world system of things, and not coming to truly understand and understand that that kingdom of God was within him, not outside of him, within the church. He, the sad thing is to truly know, because there's no hell. Hell is not a physical place. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of your energy. Okay. And truly, Robert did not have the kingdom of God within him. He didn't have that true forgiveness. He did not have that love and gratitude. He didn't have it within him. And I know he didn't. But the thing is that energy doesn't die. And the thing is that he'll go to another life. He'll go to another life, experience probably a whole bunch of bullshit again, to put him back into those energies, because that's what I have been shown by spirit that happens. That these things aren't just happening for a reason. And when people are limited minded and they're not thinking of past lives and reincarnation and these things, there's a reason why. But, the thing is maybe it will be him the next time. Maybe he will have some divine intervention, because this life for him was so difficult, but it also serves a purpose for us, for us to learn and grow from it. Yeah, I mean, it does for me. Robert let his lower self win. He let his dick roll over him, instead of taking power over his own mind and his own body. And that dick problem got worse for him. It was sad. It truly was. It was sad. It was pitiful. His health and everything. And he just gave it away, especially to the church. And then the people there, they were holding on to stuff towards him. And when you start finding out about, the power of people's thoughts and the projections, they were probably putting shit on him too. And that's spiritual warfare right there. It is, and I had my own thoughts towards them, and that's the thing. We end up in this wicked game. We do not know the power of our thoughts and the things we're saying and our emotions and things. And so it's a huge, huge learning lesson. His life serves as a huge learning lesson for me, if nonetheless, because I'm going to take care of my health. I'm going to take care of my mind. I'm not going to give it away to religion and the church. And I know that Jesus Christ is not going to save me. Jesus Christ isn't going to help me create that heaven on earth within me. I have to do it, And so he can serve as an example of doing it and transcending those energies and stuff for sure, mastering his flesh, yeah, maybe he was sinless or whatever and didn't have a dick problem because he got, power and control over his body, and we all can do that. We all can. You just have to program yourself for it. Stop looking at stuff that's going to, affect you and put you in those energies, and just, you can do it. So truly, even Robert was a liar to himself. He was a liar to himself, which that stuff plays havoc on you. You're at war with yourself when you're lying, because your subconscious mind only knows you anyways, number one. And number two is that it's just this war within you when you lie. And then it's like, wait a minute, that's not true, And so That's the thing about being a liar. And he was definitely a liar. He lied about his situation, especially with his first wife. And the pedophilia thing just, you know, doesn't even truly matter. It was the past kind of thing. But the thing is the honesty thing. That's the biggest thing. And did he really change? That's questionable for sure, because I know that there were people, even within the church, where he was talking with the teenage girls. This was years back before he even met me. And he would tell me how these girls that were when they were teenagers had wanted to go live with him and stuff like that. Robert, the people, in the church had them in their homes with their children, all these things, right? Not even knowing who he was. And that's truly the thing about the church and religion and stuff, is that when you go in there, I mean, you think that the people are doing what's right and this and that, but you don't even know who the world you're dealing with. And that's the truth. And you know what? If I went through some of the things I went to be that red signal that says, don't trust the people in there. You don't know who they are. Don't just trust them. Here I slept next to him for almost 15 years and had kids with him. Now that's a dangerous game to play right there. And so, but the thing is that, I know that he was hanging on to all that stuff anyways, that guilt and shame and everything. And that's the thing, is that when you die, you cannot take all that stuff with you. It doesn't matter what you've done. You're the one who has to truly transcend that energy and forgive yourself for it. And that's the truth. You have to be like, hey, you know what? I haven't always been my best person, but, you know, I have changed from that. And so, did he change? I don't know. Just makes me wonder about a couple of things, especially having other people's kids in my home when I was with him and stuff like that. But the thing is that of truly, changing that person, and he did change. That's evident that he did change when he went into the Church of Christ. But you know, even having that honesty, and he wasn't honest about the past. And I do believe he was hanging on to it. And as far as me waking up to finding who I had been and going in there to get Robert and his story, I mean, what a great story that is, that I went in there and I prepared, and, I got the person I was looking for. You know, I got the person I was looking for. I got the person who I was in a soul contract with, and, I paid a lot of karma debt for with Robert for sure. And, he took me down to that point to where, I had to say enough's enough. And so, he helped me a lot. He helped me a lot to change and to truly wake up and face myself. And the thing is that, you know, I was yelling too, I was screaming too. I had to change those behaviors as well. And, he definitely had an avoidant attachment thing. Whether he was a anxious avoidant, I'm not sure. But I definitely have an anxious attachment style. And as I look at that, I can see that, I thought I was secure with him, but these things would take place and he, avoided and pulled back. And I would, go on these, little things of, I'm on strike, and it's just this acting out kind of thing, right? And so, the best thing that I have truly done is to heal. And, he helped me to come to that point. When he passed away, that's what I said, was that I was going to heal. And I went on that healing journey. I did something that he didn't do, and that was to face myself and, my issues, my behaviors. And that's the whole thing. When you blame shift, right? That's a low consciousness thing. Blame shifting and gaslighting and all these things, right? It's still a low consciousness thing. And so, truly, you got to feel sorry for the guy, that he'll just have to go into another life. But I truly do believe that that was the purpose that he was meant to spend here as well, that he wasn't meant to wake up, because if he was, he would have. And so that was just his experience. And, he'll get another life, another experience. And, will he do it the next time? Who knows, But I share his story, and I'm writing about his story for that example. And I just feel like it will be in the quantum field, and that when the time comes, it might be that story that he finds, as somebody else, he was attached to those identities too, being that Christian and, being a Robert. And, he just never, took that, step back to really, separate himself from all those identities that he was going by, and that's truly the consciousness level that I've gotten to, that, it's truly nothing personal, when people do things to you because they can only love or hate something about you that they love or hate about themselves. And that's the truth. And so we just, learn and grow, observe it, experience it, come to that point where you can, learn and, just observe it and experience it. And then, if you have to take some action, take it. But, his life just does serve, such a purpose of someone who truly let the flesh, the devil side, the ego, truly rule over them. And that's the truth. So we're going to go ahead and play a couple of videos, and then come back and look at a picture, have question and answers, and a conclusion.
I am done! I don't deserve this! I really do not deserve this! I deserve somebody who gives a shit! I'm not spending one more second of this life with some inconsiderate prick!
Well, sometimes, saying that again and again, to finally, where it's done, it's done. You got to walk away, got to move on. And that's the truth, that you got to choose yourself. And that's really what it comes down to. So we're going to go ahead and watch another video.
If they try and come back into your life, send them this. Some people need to lose you to learn to love themselves, like I needed to lose you to love me. You took too much of my sanity, my peace, and my happiness. I was chasing a fantasy that was rooted in love, a love that was never good for me. I lost myself in your heart, thinking I was destined to live in it. I gave pieces of myself to you, hoping one day you'd see my worth. But I was never enough for you because I was too much for me. I kept pouring into us, trying to save what was left, not realizing I was losing myself. I buried my essence. In what was left of us, I loved you more than I loved myself, and it took losing myself to understand how deeply I hurt myself. You made me question everything about who I was, what I deserve, and what I could give. You didn't deserve to uncover the true depths of my heart and soul, but I let you because I trusted you with them. You made a safe space turn chaotic. I thought love meant surrendering all of me to you, but it only cost the core of who I was. I shared my dreams, my vulnerabilities, and my fears, thinking you would cherish them, but they only became burdens you didn't know how to handle. In those moments, I forgot who I was without you. It wasn't until I lost you I learned to give myself the love I thought I needed from you. It wasn't until I let go of the need for your approval, appreciation, and respect that I started to heal. I realized no one deserved to have that kind of power over me. Losing you didn't break me. It set me free. Now I'm learning to love myself fiercely, unapologetically, and fully. I am enough just as I am. I may have lost you, but I found me again. So thank you for showing me that sometimes the greatest gift is finding yourself when you thought you lost everything.
Well, I think that truly resonated with me and on a couple of different levels for sure. And just, that I lost myself within, Robert and the church and, the world and even Ronald and things, and that, I wanted them to see my worth, but I had to come to see the worth for myself. And when you're pouring into, everyone else and everything else and losing yourself, and the greatest gift has been, finding myself, giving to myself, and losing that relationship with Robert really set me on just that journey and that path of, uh, letting go of all that stuff, all the things, and finding, and not, letting anyone have power over me like that again, and that's for sure. And, coming to love myself, find myself, and that truly is a gift that by losing everything that I've truly come to gain was to love myself and find myself. So we're going to go ahead and watch one more video.
Blessed Awakening Soul Family. When dealing with narcissistic relationships, especially romantically, the person who is being abused often goes through a period where they feel humiliated, they feel regretful, remorse, they feel like they should have seen it the whole time. But in reality, the narcissist is very masterful at brainwashing you and grooming you into this person that they want you to become. They target the absolute best of the best when it comes to people who are capable of showing unconditional love, empathy, and sympathizing for people who are in need of some type of love, or the absence of love that they're lacking. And the codependency issues with the narcissist will lead us into these trauma bonds and these very rocky relationships with narcissists. First and foremost, you have to remember that you chose to experience the narcissistic relationship, not only to evolve your personal soul, but also the collective consciousness of humanity. So you chose to immerse yourself in complete darkness and put yourself in the darkest abyss because you knew and you trusted yourself to remember who you were and remember that the source of light is always unconditional love. And you discover true love of self in these relationships.
Well, I think that showed some very wisdom and insights for sure, knowledge and, choosing to go into that darkness, that dark abyss. So, and trusting that I would come out of it, and I had to go into that darkness and, to truly come to find myself again, find that self-love, because I had spent so much of my life trying to be the person they wanted me to be, being the person that Robert wanted me to be, being the person the church wanted me to be, and religion and all these things. And they weren't even really ever happy with who I was being, right? Because they weren't happy with themselves. And, it's, part of this trauma bonding and things. But, we choose the journey. We choose it for our growth. We choose it so that we could come out of it and transmute the energy, transcend it into love and light and gratitude, and really, is energy. And so we have that power to do such a thing, to change the energies, to learn the lessons, to see, see in that darkness and just choosing not to live that way, not to be that way, right? And that's truly, what I come out to find, even, with Robert and choosing the religion, right? That it was freaking dark for him at the end, and, the church wasn't saving him, and I'm the one who had to see it, I had to see it, that, he wasn't true, wasn't helping him to, take ownership over his own body and mind and soul and, some of the things that he went through. But, he serves a purpose. He serves a purpose for at least me. And I will continue to use him as an example because he does serve such a purpose that it has to be us, loving ourselves. And because he wasn't truly happy, he wasn't happy. He didn't find that kingdom of heaven within himself. And he was too busy looking at the church and looking at religion. And, I had to see it so that I could change and that I could come out of it. So he served a great purpose for me. So we're going to go ahead and play this video that is in tribute to Robert.
One last goodbye, fade away into the night. One last goodbye, say my name one more time. Lay me down, fear no more. Day is done, our time is over. One last goodbye, fade away into the night. One last goodbye, say my name one more time.
Well, one last goodbye. And, he does fade away into the night. He really had those dark energies, those dark energies of fear and guilt and shame for sure, a victimized lack mindset. And, his soul will have to come for another experience to transmute the energies. And so, but we had some really good times together, but we had some really bad and terrible times together too. And that's just how it truly ends up being when you're unhealed and both toxic messes, really. So, well, we're going to go ahead and show this picture real quick. A woman cannot mother well, make the money she desires, and have good health when she is with a man who is messing with her mind and creating chaos in her home. Well, I think that said it right there, messing with the mind, lying to someone, gaslighting them, blame shifting, projecting stuff on them, all this stuff, hey, like creating chaos, can't do it, and that's the thing, that's the thing about coming down to truly making peace, peace within myself, is that those people will never enter my life again. Never. Ever. So, that's the thing about it, is that, it pushed me to that point, and I went, I had to go through some stuff. I went through the whole Ronald thing, and that was a big fat learning lesson right there, but it served its purpose too, for a higher purpose for me. And that's the thing that I come down to, is that everybody has always served a purpose for me in my life, one way or another. So, when you're born into a family that are victims of life and are filled with fear, well, that's the game you're in. But we all have the power to change that game and change the script, because we truly do only see life as we are. And that's the truth of it. We have to raise our consciousness up, change our perspectives. And when you truly have a renewing of your mind, you will see the world in a different view. And so when you end up in religion, then it's like, the world is bad and it's full of people that are sinning and they don't have God and all this and that, it's, it's a different perspective, right? But, I came to a level of perspective of that, everyone does have the spirit within them, and they're just having their own experience, and good or bad, they get to choose. And, if they're not, working on being their highest self and healing and things like that, they ain't going to have anything to do with me. So, it's okay. It's all, vibration and frequency, and you can protect yourself from people like that who are not going to be doing it. So that's the truth, And so, hey, you know what? I went on the journey to, get to that higher place, and I truly am at a place right now where I do truly look at things that I'm just like, in a boat, in a river, enjoying the journey to get to that ocean, that, whatever that is. And so we're creating it. We create it within us. It's all energy and frequency. And it's your level of consciousness, looking out the window. And that's what we got a bunch of snow, but I was just like looking out there today to look at, the snow, all the snow, and then like the birds and stuff. And it's beautiful, it's beautiful to observe that and experience that, and just, see that nature, see that, everything's just taken care of, right? There's just this divine orchestration. And when you come up to the level of consciousness to truly see it, and your own life is just, scripted out, you co-create with your thoughts and your emotions and the things you say, you co-create with the universe, good or bad. And there's this divine orchestration of it. So, so I'm just, I'm glad I can see it, really. So let's go ahead and ask a few questions. Did the church help Robert with his happiness? Did the church help Robert with having inner peace? Did the church help Robert with his abandonment issues? Did the church help Robert with his struggles? That's what was said at his funeral. His life was struggles. I called it chaos. Did the church help Robert to transcend his energies? That one, I would say definite no. So, conclusion is that Robert, he loved chaos. He loved chaos. He loved drama. And he didn't know any better. It's all chemical. It's addicting. And Robert had some addiction problems. He had an addiction problem to sex and his dick problem. He had addiction problems with his television and government. He had addiction issues with his religion and his church. And he had an addiction problem to chaos and drama, being victimized by life and all the life struggles. And unless you change those energies, that's what you get. He was a big, fat learning lesson for me. He truly is. He helps me to learn to take care of my mind and my body and my soul, because no one is going to do it for me. So he served a purpose. He had good in him too, He did have good in him. And so, sometimes we had some really good times together. We truly did, But, we both were just hot, toxic messes. And that's why we were together. And as I started waking up to the religion and started really changing, because I came to this point that I was just like, I didn't want to be fighting and this stuff. And it was just like, be as nice as you can kind of thing. And that I have, from the things I've come to learn, is that vibrationally, I outgrew that whole thing, that whole relationship, And that's the thing, when people aren't growing and evolving with you. And I did try to talk to him about some of the things that I was, seeing and things. And so that's the thing. He was just trapped. He was stuck. And it's really sad that he was never able to open his eyes to, really himself and the BS stuff that he was buying into and giving his energy to. But, that's the thing. We cannot make anybody wake up. And, some people, that's their life, that's what they serve in their life, pain and suffering and those energies, truly, that's what some people come here to experience. And so we can't, make anyone change or wake up, but we surely can do it ourselves, let go of people, and, know that they have their own journeys and own experiences that they can have, but sometimes it just has nothing to do with you. And, sometimes we want to hang on to those people and places and things, but letting go is truly an art when it comes to evolving and raising up our consciousness. Truly it does that, what did it cost Robert hanging on to his people, his places, and his things? Didn't give him happiness, didn't give him inner peace. He was too stuck being identified, as a Christian, as a Jesus Christ believer, as a Republican, as a Black man, as Robert. And when you come to detach yourself from all those identities, that we go by, what do you got left, You're just a spirit. You're just having an experience. It's like an avatar, Avatar. I just heard that your higher self's on the other side of the ice fall, sending you messages here, I don't know. It's interesting, to think of things that way, but, we are all one. And so Robert was a part of me. And that's the truth, he was a part of me. He gave me some of the most valuable things in my life. He gave me my beautiful children. He gave me all that motivational stuff. I got all that stuff. And he gave me a great fucking story to tell others, because religion is not going to save your ass. It's just not. They can be delusional about going to heaven or whatever, but Robert knows. He does know. And so truly, he knows. He knows that he wasn't that person. He knows that he was sick, doing all that bullshit. He knows. He knows it. And that's the thing, One of the things I heard as I've gone down this journey is that when you die, you get a review of your life in the perspective from the view of the other person. Now, can you imagine being that person yelling and screaming at your kid and then being in their shoes? But when we take the perspective that they're us, changes things a little bit. When you take the perspective that your children have been adults too before in past lives, it's a whole different game. And so, the control issues that Robert had, trying to control all these things in life and the world, and control's just an illusion. It truly is. When you start letting go of controlling everything, it makes a big difference, And I've had to learn my own lessons about that, So, because I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be a controlling dictator, And maybe I had to see that so that I could change some things when it came to me. But, I've truly gone on this process of really letting go of some of that control. And, that's what it comes down to, is that, when you deal with other people, you can't have everything your way, It's just how it goes, You got to be flexible to some degree, or you make everyone miserable around you. And that's the truth, And, when you're yelling and screaming, you're fighting for control. You're fighting for power. And that's an old world system, New world is freedom. And that means giving power back to people, giving power back to your children. And I know that is a different way of thinking, it's a different way of being. But, when you truly look that they're just part of the divine having this human experience, and truly, like, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. And that's the truth, I mean, if, the house is a mess, it's not that big of a deal, but it's going to take you some time and some energy to clean it up, but why rant and rave over it? You only hurt yourself, really. And so, he also, was stuck in these narcissistic abuse relationships. He hadn't forgiven, hadn't let go of all the stuff that he grew up under. And it's really sad, It's really sad that, humanity's been on this path of. So, I'm going to just end it with that. He served a purpose. He served a purpose. There was good in him. There was good things that he served a purpose in. He would lead the people who were destined to go down the path of, believing in Christ or whatever. He did do that stuff, and, he also helped me and probably helped a few others to stay out of that stuff too, but good or bad, he served a purpose. So, it is time for us to rise up. It's time to, make unity, make peace. That unity and peace truly is within ourselves, with our bodies, our minds, and our souls. That real connection and connecting to the divine mind, and coming to know what we're truly here for, serving our purpose for our highest good, if that's what we choose to be on. Everyone has the choice and the power to go on that highest timeline, to be that highest self. But no matter what, the life is just a dream. So enjoy it. Enjoy it. And if you want to get to those next levels of things, what are you going to give up? What identity are you going to give up? You can't get to that higher timeline and be stuck in limited beliefs. And that's the truth of it. But, the thing is, we run this game. We run it. And so enjoy the life, enjoy the journey. And if you like chaos, embrace it and love it. Some people do love it. But if you want peace, you have it within you to create that peace and have power over your own reality, your experiences. Go on that straight and narrow road. Be in the world, but not a part of it. And it has nothing to do with the church. It has nothing to do with religion. Finding that fulfillment and that happiness and that joyfulness within yourself. And so we're here to rise our consciousness, and that's how we do it. We go transcend those energies and love the life and love the journey. And we're going to get to that ocean one day. And it's going to be beautiful, truly. The control, the divisions, the fear, fear of going to hell. You're living in hell when you're living in fear. And it woke me up. That's for sure. It woke me up. And, I was pushed. I was pushed to that point to wake the fuck up. And if by me sharing this stuff, sharing my truth of things, sharing different perspectives of things helps someone to wake the fuck up to, then, it's worth it. It is. It's worth it. We have to be the change, and we got to heal. We got to make those changes within us. I did everything I could to try to please him and keep him happy. And guess what? He wasn't fucking happy. He wasn't happy because he didn't have that happiness within himself. And I had to come find that happiness within myself too. And we look for it everywhere else, but you know what? The thing is that we never end up being happy with those people when we're not happy within ourselves. And that's the truth. We got to find it within ourselves. Come back to being that complete whole being before all the bullshit, before all the drama, before all the trauma, before all the divisions and all the fears that set in. But, I'm grateful for all the learning lessons that I have learned. I am grateful for truly just evolving and working on being my highest self. And I'm grateful for anyone who is listening and watching to learn and grow, because we all can learn and grow from one another. We all have inner wisdom and inner knowledge. And when we tap into that, we can share it, and let it spread, even if it's just your neighbor or, somebody at the store. You could just spread the love, spread the wisdom. And you know what? The world is really a mirror and people will respond to you. So if you want any help with healing, you can reach out to me to help with healing from narcissistic abuse or even taking your power back, taking your power back and, religious abuse, religious trauma and stuff like that. I went through some stuff to really heal from that. So if you want any of that help, you can reach out to me for that. So my links and email will be in the bio. But, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your experiences because they're yours. The divine, it's all a script. And so enjoy the journey, observe it, experience it, enjoy your life, and enjoy the experience because it truly is yours. It's yours to experience. So we're going to go ahead and play this song called I Am Not Nothing. It's a song that came across my path as I was healing, and it truly made me think of Robert because sometimes he treated me so horribly like I was nothing and wasn't good enough. So, but, in hindsight, it was kind of a two-way street too. So, I forgive him. I let him go. Truly. Love you.
Most people don't realize this, but we're not all living in the same reality. We're all walking this earth, but we're living in different dimensions. When you're in the lower dimensions, you believe in a God outside of you. You say things like, "Thank you, Jesus," and "Thank you, God," up there. And that's okay, because that's the level you're at. It's part of the journey. But when you go through a Kundalini awakening, when your spirit truly begins to rise, something shifts. You don't just believe in Christ, you become aware of the Christ within you. You stop thanking something outside of you, and you begin to awaken to the power that was always inside you. Christ consciousness isn't about religion. It's a frequency, a higher awareness. It's when you realize God lives in you. You see, people argue because they live in different dimensions, and they don't understand each other. Some still live in the 3D where everything is fear, control, separation. You're over here trying to speak light, truth, oneness, and they look at you like you're crazy. That's because you're not speaking the same language of consciousness. When you awaken, you rise. You begin to see the world through God's eyes, not man's. And that's why we say not everyone will get you. Not everyone is supposed to, because not everyone has risen yet. But your job is not to prove it, your job is to live it. Let your vibration speak louder than your voice. Thank you for following us at Awakening the Empaths, where truth is spoken without fear.
No one ever made me feel as small as you did. No one made me feel as cursed. I lie awake in bed just staring at the ceiling, wondering if things would get worse. I was trapped under your thumb, believing when you called it love. But I will forgive myself and start to let it go. Accept that who you chose to be was out of my control. I know it might be hard to begin again. I'll write myself a brand new story with a happy end. I survived, so tonight I am taking back my life. And I'll show you that I am not nothing. I kept my head above the water till the moment when all the elements aligned, and I could fly away to heal my broken spirit, and leave my demons far behind. You always said that I was weak, but the bravest thing I did was leave. So I will forgive myself and start to let it go. Accept that who you chose to be was out of my control. I know it might be hard to begin again. I'll write myself a brand new story with a happy end. I survived, so tonight I am taking back my life, and I'll show you that I am not nothing. Looking up at the sky, I think I see the start of a sunrise, and I will forgive myself and start to let it go. Accept that who you chose to be was out of my control. And though it might be hard to begin again, I'll write myself a brand new story with a happy end. I survived, so tonight I am taking back my life, and I'll show you that I am not nothing. I'll show you that I am not nothing.
You ain't got a chance. Trying to go to war with the champ. Trying to go back but you can't. Now it's only one king, I'm the man. Anybody wanna step to the plate? Better go and get one thing straight. I don't freeze and I won't hesitate. Matter of fact, y'all been running in place, can't run from your fate. Who's gonna stop me? 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 Yeah, who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? So electrical, charged up, shocking every second like a billion volts. Now we hyperactive, you don't want no static. I was born for battle, finger on the pulse. Y'all paper plastic while I go Jurassic. So far from average, running with the raptors like a slay Goliath, steady moving silence. So in other words, I am the boss. Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? I am the boss. Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? Yeah, who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? I just look at the world, such a sight to behold. Most of the stories will never get told. Been on my own for so long, I don't know what else to do, pray I don't lose my soul. Walking through fire till I'm numb to the coals. Coming for everything, diamonds and gold. Nothing to lose, all in my control. And I'm about to go savage, so don't say I won't. And I'm destined for greatness. Ain't no fabrication, ain't no time for waiting. Super fundamental, I can see them hating. Ain't a scrimmage, steady winning. I ain't quitting from the start to finish. Been in motion, this is physics. Never slowing, never getting winded. I ain't quitting from the start to finish. And I gotta wonder, really fine slipping in. Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna stop me?